Hello and welcome to the 2021 India and South Asia ClimateTech 100. This is HolonIQ's inaugural list of the most promising climate tech startups across India and South Asia in partnership with Climate Collective. My name is Patrick Brothers. I'm the co-CEO of HolonIQ. I'm joined today by a fabulous panel of colleagues. Pratap from Climate Collective. Pratap, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Awesome. Okay. Let me make some quick introductions. Throughout this session, you're going to hear 5-minute overviews of 4 teams across India and South Asia who are creating impact in climate tech. Sebastian Groh, MD at SoulShare. Thanks for joining us, Sebastian. Solma, co-founder at C6.
Hi, glad to be here today.
Arjun Gupta, founder and CEO of SmartJoule.
Hi, good morning.
And Devendra Gupta, co-founder and CEO at EcoZen.
Very good morning, everyone.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you so much to you all for joining us. Let's jump straight in. We've got a very fast and furious agenda. I think we'll be 40 minutes in total. I'm going to share a little bit about the ClimateTech 1000, hand over to Pratap to hear more about Climate Collective, what they're doing and what they're seeing across the region. We'll touch very quickly on our taxonomy and methodology before we announce the South Asia ClimateTech 100. The most exciting part of this session, however, we'll be hearing from the 4 teams who have joined us today, and we'll share a little bit more about how you can learn more about top climate tech companies around the world. For those who aren't familiar with HolonIQ, we're an impact intelligence platform. We work in education, healthcare, and climate, based out of New York, but with teams around the world, including in Bangalore. Some fabulous customers, those who are kind of powering and investing in innovation in impact around the world as well. We're on a mission to map the future of climate tech, and we are so lucky in India and South Asia to have teamed up with Climate Collective to do that. We set out with a bit of a prototype early on. This is one of about 10 regional deep dives. Last week, we announced Australia and New Zealand. Next week, we'll announce Southeast Asia, Middle East and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, the Nordic Baltics, Europe, and then North America in the lead up to COP26. So without further ado, I want to hand over to Pratap to hear a little bit about Climate Collective and what you're seeing, Pratap.
Great, thank you. And thank you again for this wonderful initiative, especially in countries here in South Asia, where the climate and clean tech startup ecosystem is just starting, and it's starting fast. In fact, when we started 5 years ago with our first solar hackathon with New Energy Nexus, we had some great entrepreneurs there, but it's nothing compared, I think, to what's exploded because of all these secular trends, importance of climate coming to all the stakeholders, business, consumers, and I think the entrepreneurial talent here in this list, as well as beyond the list, is quite amazing. So I think we'll see quite lots of successes coming from the ecosystem here. We're a nonprofit based in Bombay, about 610 now actually startups in our accelerators in India and South Asia, and this is reflective of the fact that there is such a explosion of startups coming in clean tech over, in particular, the last 3 years. We support startups across, of course, startups, but also aspiring entrepreneurs, increasing our funding platforms, as well as other ecosystem activities as well that we need to make a thriving ecosystem here. So as I mentioned, we do work across not just startup support, but capital and community. Here's some of our programs. Some of these are climate kick programs you may be aware of, like Climate Launchpad, this year Climate Runway as well. We do have accelerators with deployment, like Electron Vibe for energy startups working with electric utilities. An important aspect is the number of new entrepreneurs, as I mentioned. So the startup school that we launched is focusing on women in energy as well as women in plastic waste currently, but we're expanding that as well. And we're seeing, as there's a lot of interest from the funding community here in India, increasingly into clean tech startups, but also just outside of our borders. Global clean tech capital is actually becoming global, and we're seeing LPs from not just in India or South Asia, but even in Middle East, Europe, and US, looking for startups to support here in the region across South Asia. Again, I don't want to repeat too much, but our partners, New Energy Nexus and ClimateTech incubation work. This is something that's really important because ecosystems take lots of partners. I think that the HolonIQ supporting this kind of effort that really gives visibility to a lot of these startups that are coming up. It's an important part of this puzzle to make sure that we support as many startups as possible and reach these goals that we're all trying to achieve together. Our team's basically here, mostly in India, now in Sri Lanka and Maldives as well. That's a little bit about us. I'm very excited to be part of this. I think that over the next few years, we are going to see something special coming out of South Asia. I think this list, Patrick, of 100 startups may need to be expanded because we're in a fortunate position to see the entrepreneurs coming up at the early stages and not across the region, and certain countries that may not have the same representation this year will see amazing startups also come up and make an impact across the region as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Pratap. And thank you so much for working together on this initiative. We agree it's just so important to shine a light on the teams who are innovating across the region. We think India and South Asia is a really exciting part of the world for climate as well. So thank you so much, and to the team at Nexus New Energy as well. They've been incredibly supportive. All right, let's zoom out really quickly before we jump into the list and hear from the teams here. One of the activities that we're doing through this is building an open source taxonomy for climate technology. Why are we doing this? We need to see where there are solutions and innovation, where there is velocity of formation, of funding, of growth, of how that's changing over time. We need to find the gaps. We need to compare what we're seeing here with the challenges that we're facing and find out where we're underweight or where there's white space. And we need to find out where there's traction and momentum. Many of our colleagues in the science community and technology are also looking for commercial markets to focus their research efforts on as well to achieve sustainability. How have we defined climate tech? Well, this is a question on everyone's mind right now. It's such a broad and expansive definition. We've followed the EU taxonomy for sustainability and made some minor changes to activities that make a substantial contribution to climate change mitigation or adaptation, and are the product of new technology or scientific knowledge as part of that. We did a bottom-up exercise a couple of months ago to try and fuel that taxonomy. We then have been wrestling with challenges. We want it to be data-driven. We want it to be structured and mutually exclusive, but innovation is messy and it's combined. We want it to be balanced, and we want it to balance really strong, high growth parts of the ecosystem, as well as make space for emerging parts. And we want it to iterate really quickly, but we need it to be stable enough that we can follow those changes over time. We're going to share this as part of a broader package of information as we launch. We've got an emerging taxonomy here, all the way from energy on the left through storage and the economy, back through networks, agri-food, the industry, infrastructure, mobility, and enablers as well. So we'll be sharing more about this taxonomy, this open source taxonomy, as it starts to come together. So the ClimateTech 100 has a few eligibility criteria. We looked at age and we favored organizations that were less than 10 years old. The focus is on young, fast-growing and innovative teams. From a geography perspective, these teams had to be headquartered in South Asia or predominantly focused on the region. They had to be startups, for the most part, not listed companies, not part of a larger subsidiary, and not controlled by, say, private equity or a larger group. And it was not intended to cover project finance and large asset management companies as well. So, say, wind farms, standard exclusion of listed companies and mature incumbents. What were the criteria? Look, I think as Pratap said, the wonderful problem that we had is there are literally hundreds and hundreds of amazing teams in South Asia innovating. And so you made our job really, really hard. But the things that we were thinking of was the market. How big was the market? How attractive was it? How is the product creating impact, its quality and its uniqueness, the teams themselves, that they were diverse and have the expertise they need to succeed. From a capital perspective, that they had financial health. They weren't not necessarily raising money, but have secured the resources they need to create the impact that they have, and also momentum. So positive changes in their size, their velocity, and the impact as well. And as we brought all of that together, this is the 2021 South Asia ClimateTech 100. The top 100 companies, the most promising, most innovative companies across South Asia. We've started to use our emerging taxonomy to organize these all, and we'll be sharing some research notes at HolonIQ.com so that you can deep dive into this. I'll pause here for a moment and just do a quick lap through top left, renewables, the economy, the carbon economy and network and data, through the environment, nature-based solutions, sustainable materials and the circular economy, agriculture and food, smart and vertical farming, plant-based and cell-cultured foods as well. Mobility, huge in India and South Asia, whether that's micro-mobility, electrification, and then storage, including batteries, EV charging, of which there was an enormous amount in the region as well. This is the split of the age of those companies. There is already some great companies that have been founded through COVID, an incredibly difficult time to found a company, but also time to that pressure, I suppose, as they say, out of crises come amazing things as well. Most of the teams were actually founded since 2015, with a large cohort since the start of the last decade as well. And there were a few that were a little bit older outside our 10-year gap, but were still fast growth, innovative, and the like as well. What's something that's really distinguishing we've found in ClimateTech different from others is just how much physical innovation there is. It's not all just digital as it might be in other tech sectors, plenty of tech-enabled services as well. And then finally, you can see the cut here a little bit more clearly than the market map. So really strong representation in renewables, strong representation in the environment. Mobility was very big as well. Storage, much of storage is actually EV charging, so quite tightly linked to electrification, agriculture and food. And then finally, plenty of data-focused IoT network information-based teams in the ecosystem as well. I'm going to stop there. Now we're going to hand over to the most exciting part of the session from my perspective, and that's hearing from teams and what they're doing. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sebastian Groh, MD of SolShare. Sebastian, love to hear more about the work that you and your team are doing. Sorry, you're still on mute, Sebastian.
Can't unmute.
Gotcha. You're right. Perfect.
Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry about the tech here.
No problem.
Thanks, Patrick, for the introduction. To spice things up a little bit, I chose this title, The Future of Energy Begins with Bangladesh / India / South Asia. No, but in all seriousness, I think since you're making this global, obviously we're speaking on behalf of our area where we operate now, or where we stem from in the world. And I would really like to make the case here for Bangladesh, India, South Asia. But first to SolShare, why do we exist? And it's basically providing vulnerable communities access to awesome energy services. And that awesome is chosen on purpose, because we often have this notion that, you know, vulnerable people, poor people need cheap products, but that's, I think by now proven, is entirely wrong. They need affordable products. So it's an issue of designing systems, services in a smart way with smart financing and good tech. Now, SolShare falls into the group you just presented. We were founded in 2014, 2015. The registration, we had quite a journey from pure energy access now to more of an NTech or energy tech company, as we say. I wouldn't want to box us into one of your categories, Patrick. So I'm a strong believer that we have a strong convergence, and I think you also hinted to that, that the storage, the e-mobility, the renewables. I mean, ideally, we manage to converge those in a smart, in an effective way, and this is what we're trying to do at SolShare. First, why Bangladesh? Like, apart from the growth in terms of GDP growth, and was a little dumper during COVID, as most countries, but still growing very strong. I think what is really special is there are 6 million solar home systems. That means 30 million people enjoy fully distributed renewable energy access with storage. 30 million people is the size of some European countries. And often when we talk about the future of energy, that's what we would like to see, right? We would like to see everyone having a panel on the roof, everyone having a battery in their home, and then ideally even the people being interconnected so that they can share or trade electricity peer-to-peer. This is what we started in Bangladesh. SolShare has, back in 2015, we installed the world's first solar peer-to-peer grid, as it is quoted. Today we have a little over 80. But now on this convergence of sector, I think now when it's becoming interesting, because in South Asia the national grid is expanding very quickly. So there needs to be a smart integration of off-grid and on-grid. So how do you marry those two concepts? But also there are 1.75 million, a little less in India. I have to admit that to the folks who are coming after me. But for any country, 1.75 million electric vehicles. It's micro-mobility, as you coined it rightly, Patrick. We're talking about rickshaws. We're talking about mishuks, easy bikes, like golf cart kind of vehicles. This is the backbone of the transportation sector in Bangladesh. The buses can only go so and so far. And then when you want to reach your village, but even within the cities, this is the vehicle of choice, and they are fully electric. We sometimes lovingly refer to them as our local Teslas. And 1.75 million Teslas is no joke. So the goal for us we set now is, how can we marry those concepts? How can I organize energy infrastructure and marry this concept with the transport sector? Or in other words, how can I marry 6 million solar home systems with 1.75 million electric three-wheelers? And so this is how we positioned ourselves, as our product is the Sol Bazaar, which we coin as a marketplace for future-proof energy infrastructure. And on the very right side, you see such a peer-to-peer grid, which means you have houses with solar home systems and without, and then we started to interconnect them. And in the animation here, a little rickshaw starts running here. The idea is that you create a synergy effect, meaning one solar home system gives you little energy, and if you put two together, three together, you build a network which grows stronger the more you add, and you can power more resources, and then eventually you can connect it to the grid. And individual solar home systems connecting to the grid makes very little sense because it's too expensive. But if you group 100 houses and connect them in one node, with what we're going live next month, which will be again a first in the world, to connect an interconnected swarm of solar home systems to the national grid, then it becomes really powerful. And interestingly, and that's why I'm coining it also the future of energies, the people who have been left out, the energy poor people who never had access to the national grid, are now starting to powering or co-powering the country with distributed energy, fully renewable, and storage. I think that's quite exciting. And the micro-mobility play came in. We witnessed a lot of villages that the vehicles came in during lunchtime, having lunch, but nowhere to charge. So that's a really interesting play to it. So how can we create efficient rickshaw charging system. And that starts with replacing the batteries in the first place. Everything is lead acid here. It's a similar picture in India. It's only changing slowly. But obviously, we've seen around the world that lithium is right now at least, the answer to EVs. So we have started to engage there. I guess I'm approaching the 5-minute mark, at least according to my watch. So let me thank you, Patrick. Thank Holon as well as Climate Collective for setting this up, for choosing SolShare. We're very proud, very thankful, and we would like to invite you all to join us in shaping the future of energy, fueled by those 5Ds, which in a nutshell is this decentralized approach. We don't need to talk about decarbonization anymore. It's all clear, as well as disruption and digitization. Democratized because the people are powering the grid now. Thank you very much.
Wow, super impressive, Sebastian. Super impressive technology, leadership, really inspiring stuff. Love the vote for Bangalore becoming a global leader in some of these technologies as well, and really championing the region as well. Congrats on some awesome progress, and can't wait to follow SolShare's progress through the launch coming up in a month and beyond. Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Soumya Balandiran, co-founder at C6. Soumya, love to learn more about the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Patrick. I think it's a great opportunity being with everyone here. Yes, so introducing C6, we, as you can see, what we call ourselves is farming the oceans for a sustainable future. We came across this idea roughly about 10 years ago, when we actually start thinking about how the future of the world is going to look like. We realized there are multiple challenges that we, as a human civilization, are looking forward in the next few years. Some of the key problems that came to the attention right away was, that we are going to be needing more than 70% more food by 2050 compared to what we have today. Not just that, we also have to need more than 30% of the Earth's surface today is taken for raising animals for food. And this also means that we need to produce more biomass to feed these animals as well. There are a lot of companies working in this space now, but that is not completely going to take away the pressure of having to produce this to provide proteins for most of what we're using today. And of course, the third largest challenge which stood out to us when we were thinking of what big problems that are out there to look at solving, the other big issue is the fuel itself. Electric is definitely going to be a way forward in most of the mobility, but there are certain specific applications which might still be needing a lot of fossil fuel, which is very highly energy dense. And then the consumption of this oil is not reducing; it's increasing year on year. And just like a country in India, we're looking at 61% more global energy consumption required by 2050. So when we were looking at all these statistics and trying to see what kind of solutions can address these problems, and are there solutions that can address these problems, that's how C6 got together and got started. So one important aspect which we realized quite early on while starting up this whole vision is most of the problems that we spoke today is based from the fact of generating biomass, large, sustainable, quality biomass, which can then be converted into whether it's an agricultural product or a feed product or biofuels itself. But the issue has always been about how do you generate this very large scale, but in a very sustainable way. Because when we start talking about cultivating this on land, using fresh water, we're already talking about not scalable and sustainable practices. So that's when we thought we need to move away from this traditional approach of looking at land for cultivation, fresh water, nutrients, and what other options are available for us. And I think that's when it really came home, saying that 70% of the world today is water, which is the oceans, and we don't seem to be using any of it to address these problems that we're talking about. And then we started looking at this as an opportunity where can we grow scalable, sustainable biomass? and that's how this whole vision got started. Then C6 started looking very actively into the oceans, of cultivating a variety of sea plants. Over the last few years, we're very happy that we could make huge progress in terms of taking the cultivation on the seas, which was at a level of how land agriculture was, say, 10,000 years ago, to a state where it is today. Of course, there's a lot more progress to be made, but C6 has made considerable progress in starting to farm large areas of the sea, cultivating the sea plants, and then converting them into very useful products. So we typically look at converting these sea plants into biofuels, plant growth stimulants, which can yield very high productivity for land plants and other biorenewable plastics and products. The company typically has three different verticals. One which focuses on the biomass production, which is the cultivation technology on the oceans. Then we have a biomass conversion division, which works on creating uh, products which can make large impact in the three segments we spoke earlier. And of course, the last one is how do you take this to larger communities? How do you make the impact on consumers itself? Here we see the range of products C6 is trying to produce from this. So, like we mentioned earlier, we're working on agri inputs, which primarily focuses on increasing the yield of plants and the productivity itself. We work on animal feed additives. We're exploring bioplastics and polymer process possibilities with biomass. And of course, the large and the bigger goal would be also trying to make biofuel sometime in the future using very efficient and sustainable biomass. So, of course, all this goes without saying that we need to have a very highly multidisciplinary and driven team. We're quite fortunate to have a group of people from all walks of life, from engineering to agriculture to biotechnology. So, very, very cross cultural team. And I think that's how we're looking at making progress in a variety of these places, which we believe can make the world a little better moving forward. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Soumya. That's really interesting, really innovative, and it's wonderful to see such a great team behind everything there as well. Congrats on the progress that you've made to date, and I'm sure we'll all be keeping a keen eye on C6's progress over time as well. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, our next team is led by Arjun Gupta, founder and CEO at Smart Joules. Arjun, love to learn more about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Patrick and Pratap, for having me, and absolute pleasure to hear Sebastian and Soumya before me with their amazing businesses. So I'm here to represent Smart Joules. We are in the business of energy management, and we exist to eliminate energy waste. So, not very often talked about statistic and fact is that India's nationally determined contributions towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions, 51% of the target till 2035 has to come from reducing energy consumption and energy efficiency, compared to 32% from renewables. Not enough focus on this area of energy efficiency, and an opportunity to make a big impact. So that's why we work on this area. We help businesses become much more energy efficient. So to understand how, we first have to look at inefficiencies in the entire system, starting from how we design our facilities. So, we hire some design houses which we pay without any link to the performance of the energy services that we actually consume. The way we purchase equipment that consume energy, we always go for lowest first cost, rather than thinking about the life cycle cost of the equipment. And these heavy equipment actually consume 3 to 4 times the amount of energy in a year compared to their capex. But we still prioritize capex. And then on the operation side, once we have a system and we've chosen the equipment, on the operation side, we have very low levels of automation, very low skill levels, and hardly any utilization of data. So what Smart Joules does is we have a systems approach. We look at a very efficient design. We choose the best in class equipment, and then we automate the operations based on data. And we work with 3 systems, primarily cooling, heating, and compressed air. These systems are found in every factory and every building. So what we're trying to build is basically an on-site utility business. So just like you buy power from the grid without having to worry about how it's distributed and how it's generated, we want to be an on-site utility business for every other factory and building, where they don't have to worry about how the cooling and heating and compressed air are delivered. They just buy it as a service from us, who can deliver it in a much more reliable, high quality and low cost manner. Because of the energy is the largest cost, and we are able to optimize that better than others. So we have a couple of business models. The first one is a pay as you save. So this is for all existing businesses. Here, what we do is, we look at the system and say we'll guarantee a reduction compared to your current consumption. We'll come and invest in new infrastructure and technology, and we'll charge a percentage of the savings that we deliver to you over a long-term period. So that works really well for existing facilities. And then for new facilities, who are looking to come up, we have a pay per use or as a service business, where we come in and invest in the infrastructure upfront, run it over a 10 to 15-year period, and just sell the service. So cooling, heating, and compressed air again. All this is powered by or enabled by an IoT technology platform that we have built from scratch. This allows us to scale our business without having to, get an army of manpower. It allows us to drive the highest efficiency out of these businesses, and also engage the engineering teams on site and the finance teams of our customers in a way that they haven't seen before. So we are operating right now all across India and have generated on average more than 23% savings for all of our clients. And I think that's the way we want to build, and excited to revolutionize the way energy is consumed. So thanks for having us again.
Thank you, Arjun. It's no surprise you made the 100 either. I mean, when you point out just how much the savings or the target for India needs to come from efficiencies, I mean, that's massive, and so great to see such a data-driven approach to that from Smart Drills as well. Congratulations, and thanks for joining us. All right, our last speaker is Devendra Gupta, co-founder and CEO at Ecozen. Devendra, I'd love to learn more about the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Climate Collective. Thanks, HolonIQ, for having us over here and honoring us by selecting us amongst the top 100. Ecozen goes back to the date wherein we learned that agriculture is having significant energy consumption in terms of 20%, 13% of the diesel and the electricity, etc. Plus, it is also suffering from lack of availability of energy, which is clean and sustainable. Also, it is most affected by the climate change. So there is a sudden rain, the crops go for a toss. If there is no rain, the crops go for a toss. So if anything changes in the weather pattern or the climate pattern, it impacts agriculture significantly. So we felt that it was very important to build agriculture in a climate smart and sustainable way. And that is what we went about doing by building climate smart IoT controls, motors, and energy storage technologies, which would be applied to power agriculture. And basis that, we are today enabling the farm to fork value chain for perishable commodities in the agriculture space. So I think this kind of gives an overview of what we do. So we help the farmers grow by providing them access to clean and sustainable solar energy. We provide controllers and innovative motors and IoT solutions, which will enable them to get water. Even in places where they do not have power or they are using diesel, they are able to now do agriculture and do better production. We also learned that while these people are able to produce more, it's also important that they are able to create infrastructure, or they have infrastructure which can help them manage that produce well. And again, it needs to be built in a manner which is sustainable, accessible, efficient, affordable. That is when we went about to build a cooling solution called EcoFrost, which helps them manage the produce post-harvest. And today, we are now helping them to connect with the businesses as well who are in the supply chain space to help them sell their produce. And in the process, make the farming climate smart, sustainable, and environment friendly. So today, as Ecozen, we have kind of been probably the oldest in the group over here. We are Present in India, we have a 20% national market share in the solar irrigation space, wherein we have deployed more than 50,000 such systems on the ground. And we're also the pioneers in the solar cooling space, wherein the 20 feet containers, which can maintain 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, have been deployed by us for the farmers. And this can actually lead to a lot of logistics cost reduction because people can pre-cool the commodities and take them to farther markets without having to use the flights, or they can store the commodities and get the right prices for their produce. So all in all, we are enabling the agri value chain by using clean energy. And last year, we did around $10 million of revenue, and we are hoping to go upward from here. Moving on, I think, yeah, this is the first solution that we provide, which is irrigation solution, as I was talking about. And it is very smart, integrated with IoT. The key aspect that we have seen is when you deliver sustainable or decentralized energy, making it really reliable and easily serviceable. That is where the IoT solutions developed by us come into play, which help us do predictive diagnostics and enable us to service them or resolve issues even remotely by diagnosing them and so on. So, this is another solution that we have built. It is a cooling solution which you can put it anywhere, which will maintain 2 to 8 degrees Celsius temperature without needing any power because it runs on solar. This also uses a very unique energy storage technology, which is a thermal energy storage technology that we have developed. It's a 62 plate stack which can store cooling for 24 to 30 hours when the sun is there, and then keep delivering it over the course of time. This is a better solution than lithium ion in terms of the cost, efficiency, and the environment impact. So this practically uses just water to store energy. And this unit, what we have done is we've made it portable. That enables us to move it from one farm to another. When different farmers need it, they actually can get it on a lease service basis as well, wherein it's a 3-month lease. Today, a lot of B2B companies, which are in the agri value chain, are using this product to help the farmers with their collections, to condition the produce, and to reduce the overall losses of agri produce, which again is a big contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. So yeah, I think we've been working. We're a B2B company now, wherein we build technology and take it to the businesses, and through them, we get to the end consumers. And we've worked across spectrum with all the big business houses in India, be it agri supply chain or be it an EPC company, and so on. Yeah, this is one of the examples of a farmer who was based in India, and he was able to use our cooling solution and take his commodity to farther markets. So, for example, he was able to sell his produce worth 20 US dollar cents for almost $2.50 over a period of 25 days by taking it to farther markets. Because of cooling, they were able to reduce the losses and reach to farther markets. And so far, we have kind of generated more than 404 million units of clean energy, and deployed our solutions now on almost 70,000 farms. So yeah, this is the kind of the food, footprint across the country. The numbers are a bit dated. We have reached to a much higher number now. So yeah, thank you for having us and letting us share about our story. Thank you.
Thank you, Devendra. That was fantastic. So much spread across the continent as well. It's really impressive, the impact that you've obviously had, and great to see a solution in the agriculture and food impact space as well. Thank you so much. Well, we're running out of time. I just wanted to pause there. Pratap, I wonder if on reflection, kind of all the work that we did together, seeing the 100 today and then hearing from these teams, kind of what was going through your mind just those last 10 minutes or so, hearing from these teams about climate in South Asia?
Right. One good thing is I know some of these startups already, so I've already been impressed with this journey. And I'm an ex-entrepreneur myself, so I know this journey is never easy. So sometimes when we see the success coming now, it hides a lot of hard work and ups and downs and whatever these trajectories are. So first thing is just to applaud everyone here on the panel, on the list, for what is a very difficult journey. And the more we can support amazing entrepreneurs, I think we'll all benefit.
Awesome. Well, that finishes up our session today. I want a big shout out to Pratap and to Nalin, who worked with us, Climate Collective and HolonIQ kind of teaming up. Hey, Nalin, thanks so much for joining us. And thank you so much for all the work that you put in as well to bring together this list.
Pleasure.
I
Great
want
to
to
meet
thank
everyone.
Sebastian, Soumya, Arjun, and Devendra. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, for sharing the work that you're doing, for the impact that you're having. And Pratap is right. We see all the amazing impact that you're having. We don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that go into that. I want to congratulate the 100 on behalf of everyone here, and also the hundreds and hundreds of other teams across South Asia who are doing incredible work. You made our job incredibly difficult as well. We'll be sharing more information about the 100 in the lead up to COP26. Thank you all for joining and for watching us today. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Patrick.